Today I want to walk you through some of the basics of InDesign, and I want to give you an idea of how the program works and just some reminders. First, you find InDesign at the bottom of the screen in the dock. It's this icon right here, and when you open it up, it'll take a few minutes, but eventually you'll get to this screen. From there, you're going to click Document, or if you don't have that screen, you can go up to File, New Document, and that's where you find this. And then you can include, if you want it to be sideways or right side up, landscape or portrait, or you can make it a bigger size if you'd prefer as well. Okay. So I'm going to click OK. And this is going to create just a basic blank document. Your pink and purple lines are the margins of your page. So you essentially want to stay inside those margins. That way they print and save appropriately. Okay, you can use the outer edges to design as well. One thing that you want to do, you should be able to see a toolbar on the left-hand side, across the top, and some things on the right. And if your toolbar on the right doesn't look like mine entirely, that's fine. We can adjust that as we need to. A couple of tools that you really need to know about. Your black arrow tool, called the selection tool. This is what you use for clicking and dragging and moving things around. You also might use your white arrow. This is your big T is your type tool. That's what you use to put text in boxes. Your line tool. And then these two rectangles. The first one is a picture box, and the second is a text box. So if I click on the text box, and then I can click and drag and create a text box. This tool really only creates text boxes. So if I try to click anywhere, all it's going to do is try to create a text box. The same thing is true with the picture box. Once I click anywhere, all it can do is create picture boxes. If I want to move these things around, I have to go back to my black arrow tool, and then I can move the boxes around. And sometimes empty text boxes act a little bit strange, so sometimes they're hard to move or click on. If I want to put text in the text box, I can click the type tool, and then I can click inside, and you'll see a cursor show up. You'll also notice then that this toolbar changes. I've got my font and my size and some of my spacing, some indents and alignment and things like that. So, I can type maybe a title. I can select all, and I can change the font of it and maybe the size of it to make it nice and big and something interesting. I can adjust the size of boxes as well. What I would highly encourage you to do is always click and drag to rearrange boxes rather than actually like hitting space and things. So I could space this over, but the easier way is to just click on it and move it where it needs to go. That's one of the benefits of this design software. And then I can create more text boxes for things. And let's say I found statistics and I want big numbers. So I might make this nice and big. Let's see here, what font might work? Let's do something big. Now, if you see that plus sign, that just means that it doesn't fit in the box, so you need to make your box a little bit bigger. So there's that. I can copy and paste it to maybe if I've got multiple statistics. Okay, and then maybe I'll create some things that are a little bit semicolon. We'll go regular on that. And again, I like the idea of creating lots of separate boxes for things because it helps you arrange things in a way that is nice and professional. So I've got all sorts of things like that. If I want to see what it would look like in the actual paper, I can see that, and I can kind of design this way. So then I can make sure that it all lines up and that the spacing looks consistent. So that looks pretty consistent in terms of the amount of space and all of that. Okay. So that's kind of how I do type. I can even change the color of things. Now, if you have a color palette over here, you can click on it, or you can pull up the color palette right here using Window. And I can tell it to go to RGB, and let's say I really like pink, and so I want to make it pink, and then blue, and maybe a bright green. So I could do something like that. I can adjust some of the fonts and things like that as well. You can also, if I want to create a shadow on something, let's say I want to create that pink shadow on the word, I can do some fun things like that. Okay, if I click on the top box, that's going to change the text color, and then this is going to change like the outline of it. Okay. The other thing that I could do is I could put in clip art for things. So let's say that I want the Twitter logo. Then I could click on this. I could control click, save image as, and then I'll just save it on the desktop. Okay. And then from there, I can pop it right into that box that already exists. If I click on the inside of it, I can move the logo within the box. So we'll do that. Maybe I will shrink the box just a little bit. And then when I go to preview mode, if I want to put a frame on that, I can create a frame. Let's say I've decided that I like that, but I want to move all of this over. I can click and drag and select all of it, and then I can move it over like that. And maybe I'll put a frame on it at the end, and I can make that nice and big, and maybe a diamond pattern. That's a little bit about how I would do some of those things. Now, common mistakes that I see, I would see people who decide that they want to reshape this, but who don't reshape it properly, and then they get it nice and warped. It's narrower than it's supposed to be or taller than it's supposed to be. You can look up here. This is 89% wide by 131% tall. So you can tell it's definitely not the same. You want those numbers to be the same. So then I can adjust that way, or I can hold down Shift and I can adjust that way, and that'll keep everything proportional. Okay. The other thing that I see people have problems with is creating too few text boxes or layering things. Let's say that there's something underneath that. Let's say that I had that's hiding. For whatever reason, I knew there was a box there, but I can't find it. I can't click on it. So what I could do is I could click on the box that I can't see, and I can say Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And then I can see what's on top of it, and I can move it back to where it belongs or where it needs to be. All right. So that's a little bit on InDesign. There's lots more you can do. You can change the shape of your boxes. You can change them and make them circular. If I make them circular, you can eyeball it, or you can make both of these numbers up here exactly the same. That would make a perfectly square circular photo, and then you can put something in just like you normally would. Okay. I think that's a little bit of everything for now. I'm going to give you some time to play and all that, and then I'm also going to create a document for how to do some basic Photoshop skills. Anytime I'm done, I want to make sure that I go to File. The first time I want to save as, after that I can just save. I want to give it a decent name, and then I'm going to save it, and for this project, go ahead and save it on the desktop, and then you can drag anything that you have into a folder. You can create a folder on the desktop. You do that by clicking into a desktop, new folder, and then if you click in there, you can rename it, and then you can save your document into there as well. All right, thanks so much, guys.